No, I had this, oh, connecting me now. Yeah, I had to download. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Camera. Talking.
Oh, you muted all the.
Yeah.
Kevin? Kevin? Hi, it's Ellen. Hi. Right now, we're only seeing one view, is that correct? Just of the legislative chambers, not gallery yet, right? And video, right?
Hello? Kevin? Okay, Dennis McDermott. Hear me? I have a hard time hearing you.
Okay. Yeah, so just. Show me how I could get a different view. I have a split screen. That's what I'm seeing.
I know a lot of it is, with more than
Testing. Law Office. I'm going to call the meeting of the legislature to order and ask that Legislator Rose Walker lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I will act as the clerk and call the roll. Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. Howard, can you hear us? I think he's muted. Howard, can you hear us?
Legislator Coppell, unmute your microphone.
Definitely next week. Okay.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
All right. So Howard, you hear? Obviously, I just heard you. Legislator Ford.
Here.
Legislator Bino. Legislator Salage.
Here.
Legislator Muley. Legislator Gaylor.
President.
Legislator Muscarella.
Here.
Legislator Birnbaum.
Here.
Legislator DeRiggi Whitten. Legislator Kennedy. Legislator McKevitt. Legislator Schaefer.
Here.
Legislator Ferretti. Legislator Drucker. Legislator Walker. Legislator Lapizan. Somebody's on feedback. Not on at the moment. We'll go back to him. Legislator Rhodes. Legislator Abrahams.
Here.
Minority Leader. And I'm here.
Hey, Rich, can you hear me? I'm sorry about that.
Yes, thank you. Josh is here. That makes all 19 of us, so we have a quorum. I'm going to call two emergency items. We may have another emergency item or two after we go through the full legislative calendar, but we're working on that. Item 148 of 2020, an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the Office of Management and Budget. So we need a motion to establish the emergency. Moved by Legislator Ford, seconded by Legislator Walker. Anyone here to discuss? I guess the first question is why is this an emergency?
Good afternoon. Andy Persico, Office of Management and Budget. The reason that it became an emergency was just the timing of the calendar with how we have to move appropriations in and out of the funds that have incurred expenses. So we finally wrapped our hands around a plan of how to spend the money, and it came, I just think I would have done it in July, but I'm going to have to move money in departments like DPW and everywhere else. So I would have either come with you a polling request or this way, and I prefer to do it this way because the item supplementally appropriates approximately half the money we received in CARES funding and then $5 million in what we consider to be FEMA-eligible expenses. Majority of the expenses are going to be public safety related that we've incurred during the crisis, and we're analyzing the balance of the money to see how it can be spent.
This is federal money under the CARES Act?
That is correct.
Anyone have any questions on the emergency? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we have to call the item. It's, again, an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the Office of Management and Budget. Moved by Legislator Ford, seconded by Legislator Walker. I think Andy covered the merits of this. Anyone else have any questions on the substance and merits of this? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Item 146 for 2020 is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute a grant agreement between the county, acting on behalf of the Department of Parks, and the museums at Mitchell, DBA Cradle of Aviation. Need a motion to establish the emergency, moved by Legislator Drucker, seconded by Legislator Ferretti. What's the emergency on this one?
Why it became an emergency is the Cradle is having a funding issue, and the original plan was to pay out of a different funding source when we did this back in April. But it came to our attention that because of the declines in revenue in hotel motel tax, that we need to reallocate or how we appropriated the money into a different fund in using hotel motel tax. So we're only encumbering half the amount, even though it's a $600,000 contract, but because of the way this pandemic has decimated, I will say, the county budget and all the revenue sources, we're trying to be a little bit more proactive in how we're allocating contracts and doing appropriations. So,
did we previously approve this year?
You did. I don't remember the meeting. It was either March or April, but we did, and it was the funding source that we were actually paying it out of was general fund. After review with NIFR and everybody else, we thought this was the best way, was to use the funding that's in the hotel motel tax grant fund to get the money through. And they are running a little short because I don't know what the museum is going to look like as a result of this, but this is just a small step in what yet to come. So.
And this is $300,000 as opposed to $600,000.
Correct. And we'll see how things go, and if we have to readjust them, we'll come back to you with it. I think that's the method, the approach we're taking with a lot of things. So.
That makes sense. Any other questions? Let's go forward.
Sorry. All right, so the funding for the money that we're going to give to the museums will not come out of the general fund, but will come out of the hotel grant funding.
That's correct.
And the museums and all of them are closed currently, and that's why that they're not getting any type of revenue at all?
That is correct.
So the funding that we're giving them, is this to pay the people to maintain the property and to make sure that it's?
Some of it is maintenance related. The other part is some of the people who are on staff at the Cradle, because they do, it's not, they used to do events and everything else that used to occur there. So, they still have a staff on board, Where this lands in the future, I don't know, but, this is a carryover to get him, to get the, keep some funding in place. So.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Andy, can I ask you a quick question? I'm sure you don't know exactly yet, but where does this leave us with hotel motel funds? Is it pretty much going to wipe it out, or?
No, there's some other funding in there and some other contracts that probably will be charged against it, but we're doing it very carefully now of how we're approving these contracts because we don't know how much funding will be left it's all based on collections, which is down. Across the board, the county is, as you're hearing in municipalities, revenue streams are drying up. So, some things, what's affordable to us at this point, so.
Well, good luck with your job. You're supposed to fix it.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Hearing none. All in favor of establishing the emergency signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, carries unanimously. 146 of 2020, I'm going to call the actual item, a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute a grant agreement between the county and the museums at Mitchell, DBA, the Cradle of Aviation. Moved by Legislator Ferretti, seconded by Legislator Drucker. Any further questions for Andy Persick on this item? Anyone out on video? Nope. All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, carries unanimously.
Thank you again.
Thanks. Thank you. So as I said, we may have another emergency item, but we are going to go to the regular calendar of the legislature. Just note for the record that we have received public comment from John Budnick, Peter Gaffney, and George and Denise Baird. And we will give this to the clerk's office and ask that these comments be made part of the record for the meeting.
In regard to the public comment, I know Mr. Gaffney has been before us on numerous occasions in regard to this issue of this Meadowbrook Parkway embankment in the Westbury area. Do we have any resolution on this or any feedback as to where we stand with this issue?
I don't know if Legislator Schaefer, she's been working on this, has any information. I don't know if she heard us. Yeah. Legislator Schaefer?
Yes, hi, I'm sorry. Yeah, the state came and they come and they say they're going to, and I believe they did at one point, but things just keep, people throwing garbage there, and it's not a well-maintained area. So the last that I recall is that DPW is still working with the state to try and figure out whether or not they're going to, come more than once a year or twice a year, because it's just not satisfactory. It's not going to work.
All right, thank you.
That's pretty much what I have. I mean, they're not as responsive as they should be. They did come and they finally did respond, and there was a meeting, so to speak, held down in the area. They said they'd clean it up, but once a year is just not going to cut it. So I don't know what else, DPW can come up with, but we have been in touch with them consistently about it.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure that Mr. Gaffney then realizes, and I'm sure that you've communicated that to him, so at least
He
you are
emails
working
us
on this. Yeah.
consistently, and we email him back consistently as soon as we can get more information. It's frustrating.
I know. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. We have a consent calendar made up of items that went through the committees a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. There had debate and discussion at that time, and determined by the minority and the majority that no further debate or discussion is needed at this point, and we are going to be voting upon them as a block. Item 5, Ordinance 54. Item 6, Ordinance 55. 7, Ordinance 57. 8, Ordinance 57. I'm sorry, 7 was Ordinance 56. 8 is Ordinance 57. 9 is Ordinance 58. 10 is Ordinance 59. 12 is Ordinance 61. 13, Ordinance 62. 14, Resolutions 47. 15, Resolution 48. 16, Resolution 49. 17, Resolution 50. 18, Resolution 51. 19, Resolution 52. 20, Resolution 53. Motion by Legislator Muley, seconded by Legislator Kennedy. Any discussion or debate on these items? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, carries unanimously. Item 1 It's a hearing on ordinance number 51. It's an ordinance to adopt the Nassau County budget for Nassau Community College for the fiscal year commencing September 1st, 2020 and ending August 31st, 2021, and to appropriate revenues and the total amount of monies to be raised by taxation within the county of Nassau for the purposes of Nassau Community College for such fiscal year. Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Lapizan. So this will be the hearing, motion to open the hearing. It was just made. All in favor of opening the hearing signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the hearing is now open. Yeah, I actually may not have made it clear, but this is the hearing on the college budget. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you, presiding officer. Thank you, entire legislative body. My apologies for that. I thought I was missing a step. So
actually, I didn't recognize you with the.
So my sincere apologies. Definitely prepared, and certainly Jermaine Williams, college president, Nassau Community College, and Julio Izquierdo, our vice president of finance, is here and will be able to answer questions later if need be. So want to share that I'm truly humbled to have this role and my first time in front of this body in regards to our board-approved budget, and looking for your support. And one of the opportunities that I have in this role is to be an advocate for the college. It's one of the huge pieces I do. So I'd be remiss if I didn't share what we already know, and that is, our college's, county is home to the largest single campus SUNY community college, right? Of all the 30 SUNY community colleges, Nassau County has the largest. We boast 62 degree programs, 20 certificate programs. Our average class size is 22 students. Our economic impact on the county is roughly $1.4 billion of added income a year. And when we talk about an investment in Nassau Community College, we look at, for every dollar invested by students, that equals $3.70 over the course of time. For every dollar invested by taxpayers, that's equal to $4.50 in added tax revenue and public sector savings. So again, this is part of what I do, is sing the praises of this great community college that we have here in Nassau County. In regards to our budget, ever so briefly, so I know we want to get to questions, is our revenue assumptions. We are expecting a 10% decrease in traditional enrollment. We have a $100 per semester increase in tuition. We're expecting our other enrollments, this will be our non-credit opportunities, to decrease by 20%. And we're expecting a 50% decrease in our, our commissions. That is primarily two components. That is our bookstore and our third-party food service vendor. A couple other assumptions to note is that in state funding, we are expecting a $4 million, and we know it will happen, decrease due to the funding formula. If those of you who were here, you recall, I know you have, is that we had a floor last year from the states. This is state funding. This year they are going back to the FTE formula, which means it's a $4 million hit to our state funding. Other opportunities that we're preparing for is a potential $3 to $5 million decrease in this fiscal year from the states, and anywhere from a 20 to 25% fiscal year 21 decrease from the state. Those are not in the budgets that you have in front of you, because we don't know the exact numbers as of yet. We just want to be transparent with the legislative body and say that we know that those are coming and we're trying to prepare for those. And the last assumption is that we're hopeful and planful for the same level of support from the county. As we look into that, as you're going to go through your slide deck, you'll see that the 2020 revenue budget, how that impacts, and you'll see the decrease in regards to our 2020 budget of student revenues, and you'll see how it's decreased by about $4 million for 2021. Same thing for student fees, and you'll see the revenue in lieu of sponsor share, that is our non-credit opportunities. You'll see the decrease there by about $3 million. So as you look at this spreadsheet, you'll see how the decrease in enrollment impacts. As you move further down that sheet, you'll see the state aid. That is a third from the bottom, and you'll see how that goes from $42 million to $38. That's the $4 million hit from state aid that we know we're going to take. The $52 million is the county support, which we are always appreciative of. And then we look at, in preparation for the further cuts that we know we will receive, and based on our policies that we need to adhere to, with the goal of adding to our fund balance. And this cannot be understated. Our fund balance is at the absolute lowest it should be based on our board-approved policy, which is 427%. 427. We are at 4%. The actual SUNY and middle states would have us at 5%. So in order to prepare for what cuts we know are coming and actually try to be aligned with where we should be, that's why you see that increase in fund balance. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that. As you skip through the next page, you'll see essentially what Nassau Community College spends their money on. And 87% of that is salaries and fringes. And that would make sense because we're educating students. That's where the overwhelming majority of our funds should go to our faculty, to our administrators, for that classroom teaching and for that co-curricular support. And you can look down and see how the rest is divvied up. And I'm almost done, just 2 more slides before we open it up to questions. Our expense assumptions, a 12% reduction of salaries and benefits, a 10% reduction of general expenses, 5% reduction of contractual agreements, and you can see 9% in utilities, 9% increase in equipment, and this is largely due in part to the fact that we will be pretty heavily remote, at least in the fall. We need to go with a plan that is safety first, and that means decreasing the density on our large 225-acre, 50-building campus. So, and then $500,000 you'll see to increase enrollment and retention efforts, and that will be decided in alignment with our strategic plan and with a core group of individuals. The last slide on the presentation that you have in front of you is you'll see our proposed expense budget and fund balance impact, and as you can see what that percentage of decrease does to the salaries and fringes. You can see it's quite a decrease from approximately 119 to about $104 million in salaries over 2020 to 2021. You'll also look at the other, components that I want to just bring your attention to is you'll see the general expenses as you go down, a decrease in those as we're always trying to create cost containment measures for anything that we can. Also a decrease in utility costs as we're expecting, and you can look at the other pieces as we go down the line. And then we go back to the fund balance, which is, as I just mentioned, in regards to preparation and policy alignment. So, and if you look all the way down, that gets us to a little bit more than 5%, 5.5. And so we'll be able to ideally, well, it's not ideal, but we'll be able to absorb those state cuts with the fund balance piece. So I thank you again for your time, and definitely open to any comments, questions, concerns that the legislative body might have.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Did you want to just touch on real quickly the Aspires and Achilles programs and the restoration?
Certainly, absolutely. Thank you, Presiding Officer, for the opportunity to do that. So both of these programs, Aspires and Achilles, as our dedication to equitably providing resources for students, those programs will continue in their entirety in the same way, with the same leadership in regards to the faculty members that they have in the past. We've been having several conversations with the faculty who have been guiding those programs, and we're excited about the future of both of those programs.
All right, thank you. I know we've had extensive discussions, and we've reached a place that the professors and the parents are by and large, are happy that the programs will be back, that the recruitment will continue. And I want to thank you, because you personally became involved to help to resolve this. So I want to thank you for your efforts, and I think we're all thrilled to see those programs restored.
Thank you.
Legislator Ford, you have questions?
Good afternoon, and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, you did very well. So, I just have, I guess you had touched upon one of the questions that I had, that classes will not be resumed come the fall. I guess you're planning on doing basically virtual classes?
So thank you for the opportunity to address that. What we're looking at right now is classes that must be face-to-face, have a pedagogical need to be face-to-face. We've identified those classes in consultation with our faculty, our chairs, and our deans. And now we're at a stage of saying, what classes can we potentially offer under the umbrella of social distancing? So we will have face-to-face classes. It will be pedagogically driven. And again, it'll be also safety first. So yeah, that's what we're looking to do.
Okay, and I guess even with the other programs, I guess that would be for the degree. I know sometimes you always have those extra classes that people can just take, like whether or not it's tennis or golfing or whatever you have, that, like on Saturdays and Richmond classes. You will be abandoning them for the fall semester?
I definitely would not say that we're in a position to make that call as of right now. I think everything that we're looking at is if it can be done remotely, and we can maintain the educational effectiveness of that teaching and learning opportunity for our students, obviously for the benefit of the county, then we would look to do that. However, if there is an opportunity, a safe opportunity to be face-to-face, then we're pursuing that. So we're looking at, we just had a meeting about apps and, having people check in and temperature checks and all these components. So we definitely will have a thriving campus in some way, shape, or form. We just are still figuring out the number of courses that will be face-to-face.
I understand, because I know like a lot of times there's other classes that, like say somebody I would like sign up for a class and go, and that is a source of revenue because it's something aside from the normal courses, that people go to for their degrees and stuff like that. So then when you say that you're going to be hopefully opening the campus come the fall, will you still then be providing food services, or it would be something that the students would have to bring their own?
So that's a contractual piece, and Vice President Izquierdo might be able to speak a little bit more if I leave something out, but it'll be based on demand. So once we have clearly identified the percentage of density, then we can work with those entities to identify what type of food service is needed. We've already been in negotiations or conversations with our bookstore. So we're identifying ways for students to receive their learning materials. That'll go off without a hitch. I mean, that will be planned. There's always things that happen. But we've been in those conversations for weeks now. So.
And you anticipate keeping the same amount of professors and adjunct professors on staff, or are you looking for the courses?
So in regard, we would love to have the actually more. It would be great for us to increase enrollment.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the ultimate goal. We talk about cutting expenses and cost containment, but please know that we're also focused on, increasing students, increasing revenue, which means we'd be increasing support both in classroom. And so I think that would be the ultimate goal. That's where we all want to see Nassau Community College go. And as of right now, that is.
I know, it's like a strange noise. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it's kind of the noise in the background and it's up.
Yeah.
So it's, what I would say is that's based off of demand as well, and particularly when it comes to our adjunct population. So our full-time faculty will be receiving their courses, and then depending on the amount of courses or the number that are remaining, that's kind of when our adjunct kind of comes in.
Do you foresee, considering the impact of the coronavirus and on the fact that a lot of people have not been at work, they may not have jobs to go back to, so I think, can everybody who's called in, can you make sure you are muted? Okay. Yeah. Somebody's not muted. No one's just sitting there. Okay. Sorry about that. It's interesting. Okay. Considering the impact of the coronavirus, on the economy and everything, do you foresee that there could be a possibility that you might find all of a sudden come August an uptick in a number of students that may enroll to come to Nassau Community College rather than if they can't, perhaps they can't afford to go to a university right now and they try to get some of their basic courses through Nassau Community College? Do you think that that's something that might happen?
That is a possibility that we are aggressively embracing and trying to create as fact for us at the college. I will say one of the very promising components is that our summer enrollment is up.
Oh.
So that's extremely promising when we look at it. Right now, fall enrollment is not where we want it to be. At the same time, we know, our teams know through contacting students, that they're ultimately waiting for a decision. What's face-to-face, what's remote, that is really kind of, I want to say, it's a determining factor for a lot of our students. And where we are right now is we've submitted our plan for approval, and it should be about 7 days when we get our plan back and we can make an official announcement and share where we actually are.
Wonderful. I always have a great amount of respect for Nassau Community College. I love it. I love the institution. So I thank you very much for answering the questions and guiding us through these difficult times. And obviously, you're doing something right. I guess so many students miss school that they're all signing up to be part of your campus life. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, just one follow-up. In difficult economic times, often the community colleges see a increase in enrollment because people who may not, unfortunately, have lost their positions may look at it as a time to go back to school and get those degrees. So hopefully we'll get a little surge of enrollment for this college.
We're hoping. And we've also been working with the county executive's office in regards to, what the workforce is going to look like, what is changing, what the foreshadowing is, so that we can be in a good position to provide those opportunities for our residents. So,
Legislator Drucker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for your presentation. You know that NCC always holds a special place in my heart. So, and I appreciate and sympathize with the revenue constraints that you're under. And I realize you're going to have to make some tough decisions down the road. In your presentation, you talk about revenue assumptions. They're not factored into the 2021 budget yet, but you stated that you will have to deal with them as they come forward. So I'm wondering if your 2021 budget with regard to salaries, you were you have a retirement incentive program within the budget which anticipated 90 retirements, and you've received 51.
Yes.
So that right away is a little bit concerning. How do you plan on dealing with that?
So we are, so you're absolutely correct, that was 51. We have other retirements that will happen, kind of natural attrition, individuals who did not or would not decide to do that, or maybe were not impacted by it. That was a specific retirement incentive for our faculty union. And we have several other entities at the college, so other people will retire. The other piece is, or another piece, is we know the state is also considering a retirement incentive as well that employees at Nassau Community College would be able to take advantage of. Another component is looking at, obviously, our enrollment. And, I don't know if anyone saw, kind of recently, we have been in Newsday. We are doing different things with marketing. We're really reaching out to the diversity of Nassau County and the entire island with, kind of rethinking what we're doing. So it's going to be a multifaceted approach, and we're endeavored to do everything we can to preserve jobs. That's really where we are.
So as you deal with these possible revenue shortfalls, are there any other immediate things you anticipate having to do, some of the hard decisions that you will have to make? For example, with the state's contribution being $4 million less and things like that. Do you anticipate some immediate decisions that you're trying to hold off on, but they will have to be implemented right away?
So really, at this point in time, we're focusing on fall enrollment. So to answer your question, it's no, nothing. There's going to be no decision tomorrow, or on the 4th or the 17th or something like that. So we're really looking at the enrollment piece that does drive a lot of where we are as a community college. So.
And you still anticipate being within the realm of acceptability by middle states for your fund balance, right?
That well, so the one thing, there's several things I could say about that. I think when that was put into place, I don't necessarily know that middle states was expecting state support to decrease by 20 to 25% in 1 year. So what I would say is that if that situation were to occur, we would be in constant communication with them, sharing the situation, identifying a plan. Obviously, the goal is to not fall out of that category and be in alignment. But if it were to happen because of unprecedented times, we have a strategy, and we'd be communicating with them.
Great. Just one final question, Dr. Believers. Going back to the Aspire and the Achilles programs, it pleases me to know, Wen, that you're reinstating those programs. They will be an important part of the services and the curriculum that you provide for these students. Can you just explain, because in your communication with us on the legislature, you indicated that you're transitioning. You used the word transition, the Aspires and Achilles program, from academic affairs to academic student services. Could you just explain what that means for many of us here who don't really understand the distinction, and does it involve any difference in the services that these students get?
That last question is really easy to answer, so I'll do that one first. No, nothing will change. Nothing will change for students. Nothing will change for parents. What our academic student services area is it's student support and student advocacy. And when we look at what the programs do, it's student support and student advocacy. So there's several areas within academic student services, such as transfer counseling and Women's Resource Center, and a multitude of programs and services that are all about student advocacy and student support.
So your words of transitioning means that you're actually going to augment the services that have already been provided.
The services will remain the same in there.
So what's the transition then?
Is that the oversight essentially is in academic student services, right? So the faculty remain the same, the services remain the same, but having them in an actual student support and student advocacy area is kind of more aligned with our organizational structure.
So just the organizational structure then, it's not really, doesn't affect the actual services that are being given?
No, it does not legislate.
And were you ever anticipating going back to academic affairs?
I never, want to say never about anything. I think it's kind of, but I think at this point in time, academic student services is, an appropriate fit for these two programs.
And do you think that the parents of the students are on board with this type of this transition?
We've been communicating a lot with the students, with the parents, with the faculty members who have been coordinating. So I'm hopeful that they are. I'm hopeful that they are, trusting to know that, nothing is going to change. Right. So that's regardless of where it is organizationally, services will not change.
Great. That's all I have. Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. I wish you the best of luck. I know there's some challenging times ahead, but I hope and trust that you'll be able to get through it.
Thank you. Thank you, Legislator.
Legislator Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for your testimony. We appreciate it. Just a couple of follow-up questions on Achilles and Aspire.
Certainly.
My understanding is that, and you've indicated that it'll be the same leadership team, essentially, the same faculty that's handling the program. So that would be Dr. Lagakis and Professor Viscovich?
Viscovich, yes, sir.
Viscovich. And they've each been approved for 9 hours of reassigned time per week for the upcoming fall and spring semester as part of this college budget, right?
That is accurate.
Okay. Now, just with respect to the transition from academic student services from academic affairs, it is my understanding that that you've just hired a new academic affairs vice president who will be starting on July 1st. Is that correct?
That is accurate.
And my understanding as well is that once that vice president takes office next month, they are scheduled to meet with Dr. Lagakis and Professor Viscovich to discuss the future of the programs and hopefully returning the academic component to the direction of academic affairs. Is that correct?
So the programs are primarily, they're student support and student advocacy programs. I would say that we will always continue to meet and, have that communication flow. So that'll be my...
But the academic component of the program, even though it will be part of academic student services, the academic component of the program is still going to be under the direction of academic affairs.
So the components of the program are going to be with academic student services. Nothing about the programs change.
Okay, so the new academic affairs vice president still will have no responsibility with respect to, other than meeting with the professors, will have no direct oversight over the program?
Yeah, and they would meet with the professors. I mean, and I know, so the vice president of academic affairs, I'm sure, and I know the vice president of academic student services will continue to work hand in glove as they had before to ensure that all of our students are able to achieve their goals.
So the academic affairs vice president essentially will be consulting with Dr. Lagakis and Professor Viscovich, but won't have direct supervisory control.
And this is similar to before, when there was a working relationship, and there has been in the past, with academic student services. So this is not...
But essentially, the way the programs have been run through academic affairs, I understand that the reason for the transition is one that you believe better accommodates the structure of the college. However, I think what we're looking for is the assurance that academic affairs will have some input into the process as to how the program is being run.
Oh, that's, I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. And I would say that's something we want to do all the time. I mean, and I know we're specifically talking about these two programs, but in order for us to be as effective as we possibly can be, that's kind of the cabinet level conversations where we're figuring out where the connectivity is between everything we do across the college. So, we have those conversations all the time in regards to, just because it's something maybe in Vice President Izquierdo's area, there's input, there's interplay to make sure that we can totally optimize what we're offering students.
And now, who is the new academic affairs vice president as of July 1st?
Certainly, Dr. Mark Lausch.
Any idea how to spell it?
Lausch. I can get you that officially. I might have, is correct? Okay. If I transpose the S and the H.
Okay, but Mark Lausch will be meeting then with Dr. Lagakis and Professor Viscovich? And just, my understanding is that this obviously is not just a commitment for the 2020-2021 academic year. The plans of the college are that the Aspire and Achilles programs will continue indefinitely beyond that.
That's our
Correct?
commitment.
And they're going to continue to be accepting students up to the program's capacity?
That is accurate.
Okay. And the college will be including the Achilles and Aspire program in the college directory, organizational chart, web links, so that they can continue to recruit to provide those benefits to students who might meet the program criteria?
Full support, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one follow-up, just for clarity, Dr. Williams. So the program is going to remain basically primarily an academic program.
The program doesn't change.
Okay.
And the programs, I'm sure several of you are familiar with the program's offerings, and they were support and advocacy components of the program. So nothing changes with the program.
But it's primarily academic, though. Would you be able to say that?
They support the students' academic endeavors like
Right.
all of our support programs do, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Legislator Ferretti?
Thank you, Dr. Williams, for your presentation. Just piggybacking off what the presiding officer was just talking about, and I only have a few questions. What other academic programs, if any, fall under the purview of student services, academic student services?
So other advocacy programs like Aspires and Achilles, there are several. There's transfer counseling, there's a women's center, there is psychological services, there is, I believe, student clubs and orgs that are under there. So
Not to interrupt you, but are those academic programs you're listing?
they're advocacy programs similar to Aspires and Achilles. Those are, Aspires and Achilles are providing advising, they're providing counseling, they're providing student support and advocacy similar to the programs that are in academic student services.
What's the difference between a advocacy program and an academic program? Are you using those terms interchangeably, or?
Technically, an academic program is one that you would leave an institution of higher education with a credential. So that's technically an academic program, is I leave with a credential in engineering. I leave with a degree certificate in this discipline.
Okay. And are there any advocacy programs that fall currently under academic affairs?
That I would have to scour through all of our programs. We're a large institution, and I'd have to find out. But I know that our goal is that the programs that are advocacy and support of that nature, we've tried to put them in academic student services, which has a chair, which has faculty members, has several different components to it.
Okay. Now, is there currently a waiting list for either the Aspires or Achilles programs for students to get in?
I did not come with that information. I can get you the information.
Okay. But I think you had already, you indicated that we're going to continue accepting students, correct?
Yes, we identified through our meetings that there is work to be done over the summer, so we're in the process of putting through those contracts to ensuring that everything keeps moving.
All right, and the change, the oversight being by student services rather than academic affairs, that's not going to have any kind of impact in terms of allocating sufficient office space, supplies, or any kind of support staff, right? That'll all remain the same?
It's accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Legislator Walker.
I just want to clarify. Many of the students that are in the Achilles or the Aspire program, they also leave with, as you said, credentials. I would say with some type of, degree or associate's degree or whatever. So they also leave with the, it's not like they're in a program and they just take courses and they don't receive anything at the end. They're going to get their associate's degree or whatever in whatever their field that they've studied. So why would you just then this particular program move from the academic program it was in to where you're putting it now?
So they would, I appreciate the comment and the question, is yes, our goal is that every student who comes to Nassau Community College leaves with a credential, right? Leaves with a degree, a certificate, something that will help them become gainfully employed, have a livable family wage. I think the distinction that I was attempting to make is that in regards to our student support programs, our student advocacy programs, they're not, students don't leave with a degree in, since we're talking about two specific programs, with a degree in Achilles or a degree in Aspires. So their academic programs, you leave with a degree in engineering, you leave with a credential in, an academic program. And I would also say is that there's a history of both of the programs working with academic student services, and I think we're just trying to really concretize what has been done. If we think about the faculty member, who I think several of you may be aware of, that the faculty really enjoy working with, that faculty member was in academic student services prior to last year when they decided to apply for a sociology faculty role. So they were in academic student services. They were credentialed in that area, and the two programs were working with that individual. So there's a history here, and again, I just think we're trying to really kind of solidify that and concretize it.
So basically, you just feel that in moving it to where it's going now, it's really, you're just putting it all together in one package, and students will get every single thing that they had before. Faculty, they'll be working with the same,
My apologies.
And it just flows better in your mind that where you're moving it to than leaving it where it was?
Yeah, I think organizationally it is a better fit to be there. And it does speak to what the programs in regards to support and advocacy do, and in regards to our academic student services areas.
Okay, and I just, I want this program to be a continued success, because I know many students who have been in that program and then left Nassau and went on and received their degree from, their four-year degree from another university or college or whatever. And, I just hate to see that program sort of fall apart because of the changes that are being made. As long as it's going to stay as it was and get all the support needed and our students can continue to grow academically, it's great, because it's been a great program, and I just don't want to see it, fail because it moved to another area.
And that will, yeah, I understand that concern and that sentiment, and our goal is the complete opposite. We want to see the programs thrive. We're dedicating resources so that the programs will thrive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? What's the roads?
It's actually really not a question. It's just a statement, and we appreciate the explanations that you've given today. Obviously, there's a lot of hope and pardon the pun, aspirations for these programs, obviously. But this is something that even though we may move on to other topics, this is something that as a legislature we're going to continue to focus on. So we're going to periodically ask for updates and reports on this. Today isn't the end of that. So we appreciate you being forthcoming and letting us know in the future how these programs are moving forward. We want to make sure that the promises that are being made today as part of the budget process are promises that we follow through on. So thank you.
Thank you, legislator.
Good. Anyone else? I think we're good. Thank you for the presentation. I think we were all very proud of Nassau Community College and the historic mission of the college. It's given generations of young people here in the county a chance to excel. We look forward to your leadership through this pandemic and difficult times, but we believe it will continue to be a resource for generations to come and to allow our young people and people who are a little bit older to achieve their dreams and excel in school and in the future.
Thank you. We look forward to providing that. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? No? I need a motion to close the hearing, moved by Legislator Walker, seconded by Legislator Kennedy. All in favor of closing the hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Hearing is closed, so now I'm going to call the actual item. It's ordinance 51, an ordinance to adopt the Nassau County budget for Nassau Community College for the fiscal year commencing September 1st, 2020, and ending August 31st, 2021, and to appropriate revenues and the total amounts of monies to be raised by taxation within the county for the purposes of the college for such fiscal year. Moved by Legislator Muscarella, seconded by Legislator Kennedy. Any further debate or discussion on the college budget? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Carries unanimously. We are not calling item 3 at this time. There will be further discussions between the legislators and the administration and TransDev about the proposed extension. We anticipate that it will be called perhaps at the next meeting, the Rules Committee, after a little bit further debate and discussion, and we'll see where we go from there. Item 4 is Ordinance 53. Legislator Bino is going to recuse herself. Stepping out of the chambers, will not be participating in any debate or discussion or vote on this item. Item 4, Ordinance 53, is an ordinance making certain determinations pursuant to SECRA and authorizing the county executive of the county to accept on behalf of the land bank, to accept on behalf of the county of Nassau an offer of purchase from the Nassau County Land Bank Corporation of certain premises located in Woodbury, County of New York. Moved by Legislator Ford, seconded by Legislator Muley. That item is now before the legislature. We have a speaker from the administration on this.
Yes, Craig Pavel, Deputy County Attorney on behalf of the Office of Real Estate Services.
Okay.
This item is, it's a wooded property that is proposed to be sold to the land bank for affordable housing purposes. It's a steeply sloped property. We have had unsuccessful attempts past to sell this property, and I believe Brittany Russell, Director of Land Bank, is here to speak as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Brittany Russell. I am the Executive Director of the Nassau County Land Bank. And as Craig said, this is a piece of property that the county has tried to sell on several occasions unsuccessfully, and the land bank is willing to purchase this property in order to redevelop it and to construct affordable housing.
Okay. Is the intent to build a single-family home on the property?
Yes, the Nassau County Land Bank plans to construct a single-family dwelling at the property.
Now, is the construction subject to local zoning ordinance or no?
Yes, it's subject to the zoning ordinances of the town of Oyster Bay.
Okay. All right. Is that your opinion also, Craig?
Yes, that's my opinion also.
Just want to make sure we got that on the record. Legislator Drucker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I see that the appraised value of the property is approximately, or the market value is approximately $380,000. Is that what the selling price would you be buying it for? How does that work?
I'm sorry, was that question for Craig or for Brittany?
So, how is the transaction consummated with in terms of payment to the county?
So I can speak to the proposed contract. The purchase price is 50% of the net proceeds realized from the eventual sale, minus direct costs incurred by the land bank. I'm reading from the contract, including construction costs for the building and appurtenances, and other direct costs related to maintenance of the premises during the construction period legislated.
And what are the criteria for someone to be able to purchase it as an affordable housing?
The criteria is based on the HUD standards. So as we get closer to the time in which we're going to sell the property, we're going to look at the HUD standard for 80% AMI, and that is the basis of the determination, because they will give us an idea of a limit in terms of income. And from there we go through generally a lottery process and home buyer education. So that's how it's determined.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other? Leslie Walker.
Originally, when this was first brought forward, they were speaking about doing a multi-family dwelling, correct?
Initially, I did mention possible multifamily. However, after having discussions with board members, our intent is to follow the secret determination of the County Planning Commission. However, we do recognize that the property is difficult to build on, and that's why it's sat undeveloped for so long. If we find that there are features that make it difficult to develop, we'll be able to make any changes necessary in order to make sure we can construct something that's affordable and that we can sell.
Okay, so it definitely is just going to be a single-family dwelling.
That is the intent. If for some reason there needs to be, because of the slope or the challenges at the property, then we'll seek an alternative to fulfill our mission to build affordable housing.
So it could possibly not be a single-family dwelling.
There are various possibilities. However, like I said, the intent is to construct a single-family house, which is what is currently zoned for and what the Planning Commission has given us approval for.
Okay, and you would have to abide by the Town of Oyster Bay zoning.
That is correct. We would have to abide by Town of Oyster Bay zoning, and if any change to the zoning is required, we would have to go to the BZA.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Hearing no other questions, thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Craig. All in favor of ordinance number 53, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Oops. Carries unanimously. There was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11, ordinance 60. This is McKevitt is leaving the room. He's not going to be. Yeah. See. Legislator McKevitt is leaving the room. He will not be participating in any debate or discussion or the vote on this item. Item 11, ordinance 60 is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the Office of Management and Budget. Moved by Legislator Schaefer, seconded by Legislator Bino. Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? No. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. There is one further item on the emergency agenda. Oh, he's in. Okay. All right. That this was I think a vote of 17 to nothing, 18 nothing. Number 152, 2020, a resolution requesting the legislature of the state of New York to enact and the governor to approve an act authorizing the county of Nassau to alienate certain lands used as parklands to enable the Port Washington Water District to construct, maintain, and operate a water treatment facility. Moved by Legislator DeRiggi Whitten, seconded by Legislator Muley. That's a motion to establish the emergency. So, Mr. Schneider.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Brian Schneider, Deputy County Executive. It's good to see half your faces. So this is a resolution authorizing this body to alienate certain parklands for the construction and maintenance of a new water treatment facility by the Port Washington Water District, aiming at treating emerging contaminants, specifically 1,4-dioxane. The piece of property is located on the western boundary of Christopher Morley Park, immediately adjacent to Syringtown Road, where the Port Washington Water District has an existing treatment facility, which is dealing with VOC contamination. Now, as many of you may know, 1,4-dioxane is an emerging compound. The treatment of that compound is very difficult. It's not a routine, plug-and-play type treatment system that enables us or enables water districts to strip this compound out. It requires an advanced oxidation treatment process that you may have heard is being in place at the Bethpage Water District, as well as Suffolk County is one of the first, Suffolk County Water Authority in Suffolk is one of the first water authorities that were able to get approval for this type of 1,4-dioxane process. So this piece of property is about 23,000 square feet, just over half an acre, immediately adjacent to the existing treatment facility that Port Washington currently operates. They reached out to us over a year ago when the new regulations governing the removal of 1,4-dioxane was imminent. So we started negotiations with them. We got an appraisal for that piece of property, and we are moving forward with that agreement, which obviously will come in front of this body. But the most important thing right now is getting the home rule message so the state legislature can act on it, and that's the reason why this action is coming before you today. Again, there are going to be many water districts that are going to be faced with removing 1,4-dioxane. It's something that the state government has recognized. They've made $300 million in grant funds available throughout the state, and a number of water districts on Long Island, and especially in Nassau County, have received those grants, and they're moving forward with the design and the beginning phases of construction on many of those facilities. The Port Washington Water District is one of those facilities that received a $3 million grant from the state. They're anxious to make sure that they can provide water that meets the water quality standards when they are officially finalized by the state of New York, which should be later on this year. So I'm coming here today asking for approval of this resolution so both the county and the Port Washington Water District can move forward with these very important water quality improvement initiatives.
Brian, where is this on the Christopher Morley property? You said the western portion.
Okay, so if anyone is familiar with the layout of Christopher Morley, you have the main parking lot on the west side. Immediately south of that parking lot is the county kind of maintenance garage. Right next to that is the Port Washington Water District well field and stripping tower. So it's located right on Syringtown Road between the first hole of the golf course and Syringtown Road. This new facility will be located immediately north of that existing facility. So we have plans and specifications for this new building. It will be basically buttonholed in this small portion of the park, which does not interfere with any portion of the recreational facility. It doesn't impact the golf course. It doesn't impact parking. And we've been working with the Port Washington Water District and their consultant to make sure that this is going to be the least obtrusive structure. It's going to look like the existing building that's already there. And again, it will not impact the county parks operations as far as their maintenance facilities. Making sure that they can have access to this building for deliveries of supplies and equipment and chemicals that are going to be needed for this treatment facility.
Okay, so it doesn't impact any of the walking trails or nature?
Absolutely not. It is definitely not part of what we call the recreational component, which is something very that I was very concerned about when the Port Washington Water District first reached out to us, recognizing that the Roslyn Water District has a stripping tower up in the the walking trails of Morley, and it was a highly contentious negotiation and, in public vetting of that. This is apples to oranges, completely different. There's absolutely no impact to, to the residents. They won't even notice that this building is going to be there. And I was very concerned that it was going to impact my facility maintenance for Chris Romoli, and again, it does not.
Okay. And it doesn't take any part of the golf course instead of
Not at all.
All right. Then you said there's a current, it was an airstripper at that location?
There's a current airstripper at that yes, right next to where this building is going to go. Now, with the advanced oxidation process, there is no stripping tower. There's no venting of any byproduct of the process. Everything is contained within vessels within the building. There's no odors, no smells, no nothing. It's just it's a benign building that has basically a chemistry operation going on inside the building.
No, Christopher Molly is somewhat remote from Port Washington. How do the water get
Good question. A lot of water districts are stressed when it comes to being able to provide water to their geographic location. And years ago, with saltwater intrusion and other problems in the Port Washington geographic water distribution location, they needed to site another well, and they could not do it within the confines of their geographic boundaries. And it was at that time that they expanded and went to an area outside of their geographic boundaries and came up with this location in Eisenhower Park. And it was many years ago that that approval for that well field was given, and the Port Washington Water District was allowed to install a water supply well within the confines of Chris Romoli Park. Unfortunately, that well became contaminated over time, and they needed to put a stripping tower on that facility. It's not unusual, for water districts to go outside of their geographic boundaries. I think Manhasset Lakeville is another water district that went actually outside of their physical boundaries to look for water that was of the proper quality.
Is there a concern with respect to concentration by having multiple water treatment facilities in the same proximity?
No, I think the understanding here is that you're drawing water out of the ground that is contaminated. One way or another, that water needs to be treated or it needs to be abandoned. And the option that Port Washington is going forward with is continuing to add treatment, conventional treatment via an air stripping tower to remove conventional VOCs, and adding AOP in this particular location rather than abandoning this well and then trying to find another location for water for their constituents. So I don't think there's an issue with adding additional treatment onto an existing water well, provided that the water district can afford it.
And the Port Washington Water District does not have an alternative location for this?
They're, and I use the word stressed, they have some very strict irrigation schedules, especially during the summertime. A lot of water districts are stressed when it comes to summertime use and need, but Port Washington really does not have any other option for installing additional supply wells within their geographic boundary. So this is really their plan B. They really have no other option.
In terms of the procedure, today would be a home rule message, and it takes 2 years, correct?
Correct. So this would be the first, that's why we're trying to get this up to the state legislature for the first session, and then it would follow suit with the next session. At the same time, we would be advancing the agreement that formalizes, our arrangement with the Port Washington Water District, the financial compensation for the county, and approval of the plans and specifications so that they can start the construction of their facility.
Brian?
So, assuming you would give the home rule today.
That was Dennis McDermott.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt. Good afternoon, presiding officer and legislators. Brian, there is only one session needed. This isn't a perpetual preserve area. So only one state alienation approval is required for the easement.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis, for that clarification.
But it would still have to come back to us for the use and occupancy permit.
Absolutely correct.
That is correct.
Anyone else have any questions?
I do. It's Ellen Bergman. Hi. 2 questions. One is, what is currently located in location in Christopher Pauly Park? And 2, how long will this project take to complete?
I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Ellen, we didn't hear your first question.
Okay, the first part was, what is currently in this location at Christopher Pauly Park?
Okay, so the physical description is basically between a driveway and a parking lot of the maintenance facility for Christopher Morley. There's a steep embankment that is going to be leveled, and the building will be housed in that specific location.
It's right next to
Town
Road.
Yes.
Road, yeah.
Right. So the entrance to this facility for maintenance of their operation will come off of a dedicated entrance off of Searingtown Road. There won't be any activity. There won't be any driveway or anything that gets into the park. This is going to be a dedicated, closed off parking lot specific or driveway specific to this building.
No, what will be removed to make room for this building?
Nothing. There's some brush and some sapling trees. So there's no physical structure that's going to be removed other than grading and site preparation.
Okay, and the second part was, how long will this project take to complete?
I'm going to guess, so I really don't want to go on record for a specific time period, but generally, with these types of treatment processes and the level of contamination that has been found in groundwater, I would say upwards of 20 years.
No, to complete the building itself.
Okay, the building I would say 6 to 8 months. For the building to be to be fabricated, and whatever internal construction for the physical treatment process could take another 6. But I would have to get the Port Washington Water District and their consultant to to verify exactly how long the physical construction of the exterior of the building and whatever interior construction would be needed in order to get the treatment system up and running. I can certainly have that information when we tee up the agreement.
And if we approve this today and it goes up to the state, when would this project be underway?
It's my anticipation that it would start sometime this fall, keeping in mind that the state regulations for the 1,4-dioxane maximum contaminant level is still being vetted, and that's a treatment level of 1 part per billion. So I would imagine that all these water districts are going to want to start constructing their facilities as soon as the edict on when this MCL is going to take effect, which should have taken effect in January of 2020, and they put a pause on that. And now with the with the pandemic, everything is kind of doing a slow roll. So I would imagine that sometime in 2021, it will be made official that that you would need to treat to that 1 part per billion MCL.
Okay, and also, we all know this is a problem that's affecting all the water districts. So are other districts building similar kind of structures to take care of the dioxane problem?
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is, as I mentioned before, there isn't a plug and play type system that's out there. There are very few manufacturers of these types of systems, really depending upon your the concentrations of contamination that you're seeing. Everyone needs to be, or every system needs to be designed very explicitly to those specific criteria. Also keeping in mind that the health department needs to weigh in and approve all of these systems. So yes, these water districts that we've been talking at LICAP meetings and other meetings, they're all struggling to be able to meet these constraints, which are very, very expensive.
But they've gotten assistance from the government, right? This is from funding
Yes,
that they received?
yes. There's in the middle of 2019, there was $300 million that was made available to a number of water districts throughout Long Island. A number of those districts are located in Nassau County, and they are moving forward with those designs and construction projects.
And do you believe this is the best location for this water district to put it there?
Well, it makes the most sense for Port Washington because this is the location where the well is contaminated. So, you know, it has to go here, or else they have to take that well offline, and they really do not have any other options for supplying their district.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Legislator Rhodes.
Thanks, Mr. Presiding Officer. How you doing, Brian? Has this gone through OSPAC, or because it's being brought by emergency, we kind of short-circuited that
Well,
process?
the alienation is coming through emergency, but the UNO or whatever agreement will definitely be going through OSPAC.
Okay, only because, so it's because it's by emergency.
Correct.
It hasn't gone to OSPAC as
Correct.
of yet. Is there a land swap that's part of this?
No, it will be a monetary compensation.
Okay, unless I misunderstand. I thought for alienation of parkland, I thought a land swap was required.
Dennis, you want?
Brian?
Go ahead.
Brian, as long as the money is being used, and in this case it will be used for capital improvements at Christopher Morley, the state still accepts it.
Okay.
A monetary payment as opposed to a land swap.
Thank you, Dennis. And just so I'm correct in my understanding, do we know that Port Washington is ready to move ahead with construction in the fall if this is approved? Because up until 5 minutes ago, we thought that it was a 2-year process in order to have the state consider it.
We have been let's say we've been speaking with the Port Washington Water District for over a year. So we were in the process, and actually DPW approved the physical features of what this building was going to look like. Concurrently, the Port Washington Water District has been conferring with the county health department on the physical processes that need to take place on interior of that building. And I recognize that Port Washington can only advance everything so far unless they have assurances that the state's going to go forward with the alienation, and this body is going to approve the UNO so that they can go forward and construct. But I have been in touch with the Water District and their consultants over the past several weeks, and I know that they're going to want to fast track this because they're going to have to conform to the MCL when they are final, and if they're not in conformance, that well cannot go on. So I know that they're going to want to make this a high priority project as soon as all the approvals are granted.
But realistically, do we think they can be shovels in the ground sometime this fall?
Well, it's not a government. I think that they could. But I can reach out to them and get their, explicit time frame on.
And the reason that I'm asking, Brian, is just because alienation of parkland is kind of a big deal.
Understood.
And I hate the concept of doing it by emergency because we're bypassing all of the normal checks and balances that we would typically have when we deal with alienation. So, my concern is if they were talking about not building until next year at some point in time, we could go through the normal process, have all those normal checks, and then bring it to the state legislature at the beginning of next year, and it wouldn't affect anything. So that was kind of the basis for my question.
Yeah. Well, again, the conversations that I've had with Port Washington is they are under the belief, as are other water districts, that once the the MCL is made final, there's going to be a mad scramble to make sure that their facilities are going to be able to provide water that's of proper quality.
And so the action today would be beneficial towards that effort?
Yes, I definitely go on record saying that.
Okay, thank you.
Rich, this is Delia Witten. I just want to mention that I've been talking to the Port Washington Water District like all day. They're very anxious to get this moving.
Does anyone else want to weigh in? Let's hit a walk.
Obviously, my district is faced with some real issues with water, certainly especially with the Grumman Navy Plume and Bethpage, then adding to that the 1,4-dioxane, Hicksville Water District 2. I believe we have 14 wells, which 12 of them are affected. So this has to be done, throughout so many of our districts. We're really, probably very few of us don't have to worry about this issue. And I know that when the state first was moving forward on it and was going to have to take place at the beginning of this year, I mean, basically the water districts were told if you do not correct these wells, which were impossible to do in that time frame, that they literally had to send letters to their residents saying your drinking water or your water shouldn't be,
right.
This water you shouldn't be using.
Consumed.
So, and the water districts all agreed that they would shut down their wells before they'd ever send a letter out like that, which then brought another problem in many, like we know in many of our areas, they would not even have had enough water to supply to either their residents or businesses or whatever. So all of our districts really, like I said, are facing this, and as you said, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there in Port Washington. If this is the well, they need to address this, or they have to find, now they didn't have a place to put the well,
Correct.
so that's why it was there. They'd have to find a place for a well, and if that well was in any place that was going to bring up water that needed to be treated, they'd have to do the same thing.
Exactly.
In a new place. So I just wonder, though, during the construction phase, I mean, I've talked so much about this issue with, like I said, within my district, but how, do we know exactly this, like the size of those facilities? Like, some of them happen to have a building they could use, some of our districts, like have a building they could put, because it's a total different type of treatment, as you said. Can't just be added to treatment plants they already have.
Right.
It's a separate total treatment that they have to use. But during the construction phase, will they still won't have any access to the park or anything? They'll be able to use that one driveway.
And we were very sure in our dealings with them that there was going to be no interference with our operations. We do have a maintenance garage that has a lot of activity. We have golf carts going in and out of there, and trucks taking trash and debris and all that stuff. And during the wintertime, we need to make sure that that our plows would be able to get in and out of there with salt and whatever. So we made very, very sure that that there was going to be no interference with our operation. During construction, it will be completely contained. There won't be any interference again with our with our comings and goings within the park, and we made sure that we're very comfortable, especially with the Parks Department, having meetings with them, and we're very comfortable moving forward with the construction.
Okay, and the other, and I should know this because, like I said, we've talked about it. So, but how big is this facility that they, there's still a building that they
The building is 23,000 square feet. I can provide draft drawings to to the legislature. So, I can run back upstairs. They are draft, but it's really not an obtrusive. It's a very low, a low profile building. And if you ever drive on Searingtown Road, it's basically going to be down in a little valley as you come off of Searingtown and go into the park. So it's not going to be some giant structure that's going to impact anybody's vision or anything. It's an unobtrusive, benign type construction. in my mind, I grew up at, Christopher Morley was my
Right.
park. I really don't see any, any interference or any impact to the residents, in that area. There aren't any homes directly across the street from this construction.
God rest his soul, my husband used to work over at Morley, so I spent a lot of time over at Morley, too. So I know exactly where you're talking about, but I just wasn't sure of the size of the building. Because, somebody will say, like, that wasn't there before, whether it's in a ditch,
Right.
somebody will notice and whatever, and obviously it has to move forward here further but I know it's something we are all faced with in all of our water districts, so.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How long has this been under discussion with the Port Washington Water District?
I would say this time last year, we initiated, they reached out to us with, via a letter. We had a couple of site meetings. We started just going back and forth on what this building could potentially look like. So then, and then the beginning of this year, things kind of hit pause, but there were discussions with their council.
Our first knowledge of this was today. It was communicated to our council that the administration was seeking a emergency on this. So one of my colleagues in the legislature mentioned it to me in the Port Washington District. First I heard that it involved Christopher Morley Park was just now. Now, I represent Roslyn Estates, which is adjacent to Christopher Morley Park. It is kind of remote from this spot, but they had a major issue with respect to the Roslyn Water District airstripper. I believe this legislator Birnbaum represents a district that's across the street from Christopher Morley, and there is a residential development right there. The problem I'm having at this point, and I'm all for everything that's been said in terms of dealing with 1,4-dioxane and the location, is that I haven't even had an opportunity to speak to the village officials in Roslyn Estates to tell them that this is coming. So you're asking me to approve an emergency alienation without my even telling my constituents or Legislator Birnbaum telling her constituents. I mean, how is that the appropriate way for us to act as legislators?
I understand. There certainly could have been should have been opportunities for for the administration to reach out to not only you, because you had such keen interest in Morley, but also to Legislator Birnbaum. I'm going to take a mea culpa on that, and I apologize for not contacting the legislature earlier. There have been so many. I can't use the excuse so many things on the plate, but I recognize that there were going to be many opportunities to brief both sides on this issue, and the fact that this that the home rule did come up relatively late last week. I'm sorry, but that's unfortunately the way it laid out. But again, if I could have gone back in time and briefed both sides several months ago, I'm going to take my lumps and say I should have.
I need to at least consult with or speak to my residents, the representatives of that village, the mayor and the trustees. I understand the location is remote from that particular village, actually much closer to the development on Legislator Birnbaum's side, but this will be the third facility in that park. So I think there may be concerns among residents, even though they may be somewhat remote from the park, to say how many different contamination treatment facilities are you going to put in our park. So I'm not ready to move as an emergency today. Obviously, if we had more time before we can consider this, those discussions could take place. And if, in fact, the legislature goes out of session between now and the next meeting or the meeting after that, then then that's not really on us. That's really on the administration for getting this to us this late. But I'm going to recommend to my side not to vote for this emergency at this time. Anyone else have anything to say? Legislator Birnbaum? I can't hear you.
Yes, okay, thank you. I also was a little taken back that first got it today, shortly before this meeting. I do understand the importance of it and what it means to the Port Washington Water District, but I agree that it was done very hastily in terms of presenting to the legislature, and it wasn't clear what was going to happen, where this was being built. I do appreciate your total explanation, Brian, but I feel that we should have been given the courtesy of some advanced knowledge about this project, as should the residents in that area.
Here's what I'm going to recommend. Obviously, legislators can vote as they please, but I would recommend that we vote against the emergency at this time. I will put the meeting in recess. If we want to reconsider it in 2 weeks, we may do so. Now, again, I don't know what the timing of the assembly is. There's talks that they're going out of session or that they're finishing up next week. But again, getting this at the 11th hour, literally the 11th hour, is really not the issue. Is not the fault of this legislature. We have to do our due diligence. Anyone else have anything to add? All right. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye. All opposed say no. No. All right. The emergency fails by a vote of 18-0. Was it 19? 19-0. All right. I'm going to put the meeting in recess, and that's it. Thank you very much, folks. Frank, one clarification. The vote, okay, let me go. The vote on the emergency was in fact 18-1. Delia DeWitt voted in the affirmative.
Thank you, Rich. I had a problem with the phone, so I appreciate it.